November 18th, 2021, meetings of the City of Lakeland Historic Preservation Board and Design Review Committee. The board and committee meet monthly to review proposals for changes to properties located within the city's 7 historic districts and buildings designated as local landmarks, as well as to conduct other historic preservation-related business, consistent with Article 11 of the Land Development Code. The board is made up of 9 Lakeland citizens appointed by the City Commission and is assisted by staff of the Community and Economic Development Department and City Attorney's Office. The first meeting comprises the Historic Preservation Board agenda, where business of the board is handled, including recommendations of new historic designations. The second meeting consists of the Design Review Committee agenda and involves acting on recommendations from staff regarding certificate of review applications for major work proposed to properties within the historic districts or local landmark buildings. The Design Review Committee is a standing subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Board. Public input is welcomed for items on the Design Review Committee's agenda, and we invite everyone who wishes to participate to be heard. We ask that all speakers come up to the desk on the left side of the dais, state their name and address for the record, and be concise in their comments. And thank you for your interest and participation. Please silence all mobile devices at this time. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to our chair, Mr. John White.
Yes, I'd like to call to order the November 18th meeting of the Historic Preservation Board of the City of Lakeland. We'll start by taking roll. John White, present. Lynn Dennis.
Here.
Landis Fleming.
Here.
Dan Fowler's absent. Jeremy Moses.
Here.
Christopher Olson.
Present.
Cesar Perez, not here yet. Melinda Rinker.
Here.
And Michelle
Here.
Sylvester. Thank you. We do have a quorum. And I'll put before you the review for approval of the October 18th minutes of the Historic Preservation Board.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you so much. The minutes stand approved. Under old business, we have an update on the Perry residence nomination to the National Register of Historic Places. Emily?
I just wanted to update the board. The Florida National Register Review Board met on November 4th, and it was a unanimous decision to recommend designation of the Perry residence. So the next step, it goes to the National Park Service for certification. And I will let you know when that happens.
Do you know when that will be?
I don't know. I think they might meet in January.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. Under new business, we have an appeal of the decision of the Design Review Committee from September 23rd, denying the demolition of the existing house and new construction of a single-family residence on the property at 532 West Park Street. That was Historic Preservation Board designation 21-186. The owner is Carrizosa Capital LLC, and the appellant is Mr. Diego Palermo of Paramount Building Services of Florida. We'll first ask Jared to administer the oath to those who wish to testify.
If you plan to speak to the board today, if you're able to stand, just stand and raise your right hand. If you plan speaking at any time today, are you all going to speak? Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest for 532 West Park Street on the board?
No.
No? Okay. Emily, if you would provide the staff report. I noticed there is no staff report, but it was the evidence that we had before.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give an explanation. Included in your agenda packets is the staff report and recommendation from the September 23rd meeting. Nothing's changed. I haven't received any additional evidence from the applicant. So that will be, basically, they will be explaining to you their case and providing any additional evidence. They did provide me a flash drive for today's meeting, so I believe there are some photographs and documents that they'd like to show you. But as far as a staff recommendation at this point, my staff recommendation from September 23rd still stands.
Thank you. Mr. Palermo, would you like to provide testimony for the appeal?
If you could, sir, these microphones are on. If you two want to come and just have a seat at this table here, you can come and make your presentation down here.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
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 Yes, I come from my engineer to he are going to explain the situation for this case.
Could you give us your name and
William Roberts. I'm the president and owner of EGI Engineering Great Ideas in Plant City, Florida.
okay, and you, sir?
Diego Paramo on Paramount Building Service.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, you turning it over to me? I thought you was going to. Yeah, the structure that we're going to demolition has been denied on. The structure, almost all of the floor joist system, the walls and all, this ton of termite damage to the home and everything. Just about almost every structural member in this home would have to be replaced with new structural, the structural floor joist systems, the pier systems and all. There's pier systems that are leaning. The footers are not up to current code. It's going to exceed the 50% rule where everything has to be brought up to current the 2020 Florida Building Code requirements. Cost-wise, it's going to cost more to repair this home than it is to actually demo it and reconstruct it. Because almost everything in here, from what we've seen, is termite damaged, water damaged. The pier systems are going to have to be all totally replaced, repositioned to structurally support the home properly to meet the 2020 Florida Building Code requirements. So that was the reason that we were asking for a demo permit, is because we were looking at the structure and the cost associated with it. It's going to cost the owners more to actually, and it's time and labor intensive to repair this home. So that's why we requested a demolition permit so we could reconstruct it. Even if we tried to reconstruct this home, it could possibly be brought to the minimum design requirements of the 2020. But as engineers, we don't want anything just to be minimum requirements. So that's why we were asking for a demolition permit on this home. And I think you have additional photographs, I think, that were also provided on the flash drive.
Yes, you got
that we can also, that you can also see also.
Yeah,
That's what we're
while
looking.
you were speaking.
As I recall, the last time, there were a lot of photos of the expansion area in the back, and we had very minimal photos of anything in the forward part of the house. And I think that was why we mainly
Yeah.
denied it, requesting more photos of the actual early house. And I think most of these photos we're looking at are still the expansion area.
No, inside.
Yeah, I'd be curious, how many photos of the front do you have, and can you point out which ones they are?
Just like two photos.
2 photos of the front portion
Yeah,
of the building?
only part you're going to see good is the front entry. Yeah, everything is damaged.
Right, but,
I mean, I think you can see the perimeter beams, how bad of shape they're in. The floor joist systems that help support that connect to all these perimeter beams here are pretty much damaged, just like what you see here.
That's throughout the main portion of the house, not the addition as well.
Yes.
can you point out which pictures are of the main portion of the house?
You just did, I think. The 2 first.
Just 2 photos?
No, they have more, like 90 photos I bring.
I think in,
I mean, you can see, that's an example of what I'm talking about, the pier system. You can see that it's leaning, all these piers and underneath this home are gonna have to be, all of them are gonna have to be replaced, redone, properly sized footers put underneath the pier systems that meet the 2020 Florida building requirement. This is built in almost 100 years ago, so the requirements now are much more stringent than they were when, of course, everyone understands that it was when it was actually built, so.
did you say the 2024?
2020 Florida Building Code.
Florida, 2020.
Okay, 2020, 2020. Let's say 2020, sorry.
2020 Florida.
Is this photo of, like, the seam between the expansion in the back and the main house?
No, that photo is for all the perimeter for the house.
Yeah, but this photo,
The specific.
What's that a photo of?
Is the left-hand side the addition and the right-hand side the main house?
The main house, the left side from the main house, not for the addition or not for the house.
That's the main house.
Yeah.
main house addition.
The whole house is, that photo they're saying is the home, is the main house, one of its footers.
No
On
addition.
both sides.
You keep moving the picture that side. You keep moving more, and that's the left side.
Is that the addition?
No, the house. You keep moving more.
That's the addition. We saw
Yeah,
that.
that's the addition, but the another side is the side. And when, that's the side, that's the house. It's not the addition. It's the main house, that's the main house.
And in them pictures there, you can also see, nowadays with the exterior load-bearing walls aren't spaced at 24 inches on center or greater, like you probably could see in this photograph here. Exterior load-bearing walls are 16 inches on center. Every 16 inches center, the vertical studs
Yeah.
Is what?
spaced instead of 24 inches or larger like you're seeing in these photos.
Oh, okay, the older is 24, okay.
But it's full with termite. You have termite everywhere. You see?
Did the owner of the property, it's the same question I had last time. Did the owner of the property even see this property? Like, did they look under the house? Did they have an inspection? Or did they buy this kind of with the idea of, oh, I just want to demo it?
They buy us east, and when they try to fix some interior wall, they remove some drywall, and then they start seeing all this and
So that was after they bought it.
after.
So they never really looked at it before they bought it.
No, they have the supposed to inspection, but the inspector, he don't know what is behind the wall, the drywall.
Right, but you could look,
Has the inspection
Under-
report been provided to?
No.
No.
They would probably want to see what the home inspector also said also.
Because you
Addition
would
to what we're
have, you
saying.
would have seen those, the support beams around the perimeter of the house, you would have seen those were termite damaged if you had just crawled up underneath the house. I crawl up under my house all the time and I know what's going on underneath there. So to me, that's just an excuse.
Yeah, it looks like somebody took the effort to.
Are you saying that you cannot refurbish this house?
No.
Or that because the cost potentially is more, have you actually had a bid on what it would cost to refurbish it?
Yes. We already had a bid for build a new home, and and fix everything, but we had to fix each wall. By the end, everything going to be new.
Did
We had-
did you provide the cost
Yeah.
spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Did
she
she
had.
have it on the flash?
Yeah, she
Okay.
had.
Do you want me to pull that up?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the
Do you know which file it is?
invoice.
Invoice?
That one. You can show.
That's the,
There's a new.
that's the new, the top one is the new, the one right below it's the renovated.
Mhm.
This is the remodel.
Okay, foundation exterior with 515 colors.
And that's just your bid.
It's my bid. Yeah.
That's the new one.
This,
What was the cost of refurbishing the house?
That's it right there.
That's the
that's
cost.
what
What's
this,
that number?
That's-
Can you read that?
Oh,
350,000, yeah.
And what was the old bid? Like what?
207.
207 for a demo and reconstruction.
Which if they want to flip this house, they're gonna make more money if they just build a new one.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I just, I'm struggling with the idea that it appears that you guys purchased the house with the understanding that you could just demolish it, rebuild, and move forward. And I mean, I cannot differentiate on the photos which are actual front part of the house versus back part of the house. To see what we're looking at, I would love personally to have a video where you walk in and where we could see what this actually looks like, because I don't have that spatial availability by these particular photos to see what we're actually looking at. I mean,
What's new, what's old,
yeah, what's the back part, what's the new part, or, well,
newer.
newer, yeah. What's the really,
That's the stereo main wall. You see the damage? All
That-
the stereo wall is like that. Last time I asked if we can have meeting at the job site, and then you're going to see all the stereo walls like that. And then we had to replace each wall, and then by the end, every stereo wall
Yeah.
going to be new. What is the difference to do that and build a new one? By the end, everything going to be new. The stereo wall, the joists, the column, the frame, roof, are going to be new, complete, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that looks like it's even salvageable is the roof. It looks like it was replaced much more recently.
And it's not safe to do that. It's not safe. We have to temporarily jack the walls and the floor and the roof. It's not safe.
Yeah, they had done some demolition.
Was
before
the,
we get
was the
these
structure,
photos.
was the roof just recently,
what's that board there, what's that?
Yeah, it looks like somebody, the previous owner here installed a new shingle, but I searched online, looks like they never pulled a permit because the shingle looks new, but online,
Yeah, so the plywood looked relatively
yeah.
recent.
You see the new plywood, they replace almost all the plywood. But they don't fix the roofing frame. The roof frame, they don't fix, they just replace the
roof
plywood.
rafters or,
Roof rafter,
Melinda, I think that post you were asking about was just a safety support they'd stuck in.
That's the size.
How,
Yeah,
Let's
that
go
one.
back, go back.
That post there, is that just for support?
Yeah, if you remove this post, it's going to collapse. And this is the house, it's not the addition.
you can see the floor
That's the
itself.
stereo wall from the main house.
Now I get the point. So $443 extra $1,000, you're basically building a new house anyway.
Are the windows salvageable?
No.
Nothing there is salvageable.
When you go through the building permit process, separate from your committee, but the building, this is going to exceed what we call the 50% rule. The windows are all gonna have, all windows, doors, exterior, all windows and exterior doors are gonna have to be replaced that are up to current code requirements.
Could those windows or other architectural elements that are salvageable, could those be offered for salvage, reuse, not necessarily to be put back into a new
Understood, yes.
house, but
Yes, yes.
to be recycled essentially?
Yeah.
Areas probably, yeah, for areas that are probably north of us. I mean, because we are in the, like, the 140, 150, the ultimate design wind speed for what we're in is the 140s in this area here for Category 2 homes. I mean, it's Category 2 for living spaces. For like garages and all, that's Category 1. But when you look at the internal and external wind load pressures that we have to design by in order for them to get the permit, them windows would, I mean, not for this area, but I would think it would have to be probably a little bit further north in Florida that you could sell, yes. But I would say, yes, you can sell them.
Well, and there are historic window restoration
Right, exactly.
people that would like the glass, or, you know, to rebuild historic windows.
But also, you could also use them if it's where you're not in a situation where you're at the 50% or greater, restoration value. You can replace windows here in this area as long as you're not having to be bringing the home up to current 2020 code. So I understand what you're saying. Yes, exactly.
I just think that the windows are one of those features that could be salvaged, reused elsewhere, donate to whomever. There's a lot of us with older houses that
Right.
actually need this. What other architectural features are there, like the what are they, knee brackets?
Brackets, yeah.
On the front or side? What do we have?
Let me get to that. Even the bricks. The brick, yeah.
The bricks. Okay, no knee brackets. Columns, yeah.
I think, Melinda, that would just, if you wanted to make a motion, you would just include that all salvageable architectural elements be retained.
Yeah, are we at that point?
I'm just saying, that way you don't have to say, well, we don't have to go through which they are.
Right, do we need
We're not ready
a
for a
public
Yeah,
before
we
we
need
come
to
to
have
us?
public.
I'd
Okay,
like to ask the applicant if they have any other
You have any
evidence that
other?
they want to show that was on the flash drive?
No.
No?
All right. Are there any other board questions or comments to the applicant? All right. Are there any comments from the general public about this particular property? Hearing none.
Yes, you have
Yes.
One, yes,
For the first time ever.
Yes.
please.
For this podium?
And we'll ask you to state your name for the record.
come over to that one.
No problem.
Just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Greg Wilhelm. I'm one of the partners with Meg Homes. Did you put address? Where I live?
For business, it's fine.
Okay, but my office is on Edgewood Drive. As I sat here and listened to this, I mean, I've worked with Emily before and been here for some meetings. I just thought I'd toss in here that I actually did go look at this house as a possible investment for my company. And after spending about 15 minutes there, I just walked out the door and said, this house has no hope. And I love historic houses. I mean, I love the way they look. Emily will tell you that I've talked to her numerous times about doing things right within the historic district, but this house was not one of the treasures of the Dixieland Historic District, so my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
That is extremely appreciated. Because that kind of we don't have the eyes on the physical interior and whatnot, so thank you.
I appreciate this process, so I just thought I'd throw in a little. I don't know these gentlemen over here, I'm sure they'd attest to that, but this, other than the front porch looking nice, and this house was beyond salvageable, in my opinion.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Question, is what's going back going to be similar, or is that the next, that's at the next, another step?
Well, it's kind of part of this one though, because in their initial proposal, they proposed a new house,
So
and
she can see it?
Oh, yeah.
they said it's the third version of this house, already in Dixieland.
Well, I think that both, the two items need to kind of stand on their own merits. So if the board's inclined to approve the demolition, it would be appropriate to make a motion and approve that, subject to whatever conditions if the board wanted to impose. And then the approval for the new house would be heard as a separate item.
Yeah, and I think that would go back to the design review committee. Is that correct, Jared?
Well, I was gonna ask you that, because I don't know if we noticed for this item, or did we continue it when it was for the new construction? How did we handle that when?
Yeah, so the denial and the appeal to the denial included both demolition and new construction.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would say that the board, if they wanted to uphold the appeal, grant the appeal, but also conceptually approve the new construction with further review to happen by the design review committee at a future meeting, because staff did have concerns about the new construction back at the September meeting. Does that make sense?
Is there, who on the board is not on the design review committee? So
Just
you're,
Michelle.
it's really just the exclusion of your vote.
Correct.
Really, that would be the real operative difference between the two committees. So my recommendation is, so that they don't have to come back unless the board determines they need to, my recommendation would be to go ahead and address the demolition and then adjourn as the preservation board and reconvene as the DRC, and then we can call the new construction item at this same meeting and address it.
Okay,
And that works even though they appealed the application to the full Historic Preservation Board?
Well,
If we do half of it?
Our rules don't really address the
Okay.
details of the appeals, so I guess it's really to the discretion of the board. If you think it's appropriate to just have the whole board hear both items, the rules don't say that you can't.
Okay, under the new business, it says demolition as well as new construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
It's,
bundle.
it's
Okay.
what's
That they're together.
before us.
Yeah, I really think it needs to be passed together. I mean, it was denied together. It's being appealed together. I think it needs to come out as one thing.
I would still recommend a separate motion for the demolition.
Yeah, just to
Yes.
handle it all by the Preservation Board, full
Right.
board. Yeah,
Yes, I agree.
with that.
That's cleaner.
okay.
So we can make a motion for just the demolition portion and to continue the discussion on the on the new building. Is that accurate?
I think you can take each one separately, so you can make a motion
Okay,
according to the appeal just for the demolition,
okay,
and then the second part, we'll discuss the new construction.
You
okay,
ready to make a motion?
yeah.
Okay,
So I'd like to make a motion to, did you,
No, we haven't discussed amongst ourselves, so I don't know.
do
if
we
can
discuss
do that.
after the motion? Do
Yeah.
before?
Only just to-
Typically, you make a
Close,
motion, you get
yeah.
a second, and then discussion on the motion happens after
Okay.
the motion is seconded.
Okay. I would like to make a motion specifically and only on the demolition portion first, that we allow the demolition with the understanding that salvageable architectural pieces be made available to the public for salvage.
Second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the demolition and holding of architectural elements for salvage. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none. Go ahead.
You have to call for a vote on it.
Yeah, roll call vote. Okay. John White for the motion. Lynn Dennis.
For the motion?
Landis Fleming.
4,
Jeremy Moses.
4.
Christopher Olson.
4.
Melinda Riker.
And 4.
And Michelle Sylvester.
For.
All right. We still have the element before us of the new construction.
And if it would please the board, I can go back through my staff reports.
Please
Yes,
do.
please.
Yes.
Okay, so on the screen here, the new house will reflect a bungalow-styled appearance with a front gabled roof and front porch supported by square columns on brick piers. Design elements include a raised foundation, triangular gable vent, and windows with a 1/1 light configuration. Okay, second, this is the floor plan. Materials for the proposed new house will include a concrete stem foundation, raised 21 inches above grade, clad in smooth texture stucco, hardy plank lap siding with cedar mill wood grain texture and a 6-inch exposure, as well as hardy panel vertical siding in the front porch gable. Hardy trim smooth boards will be used for the trim, casing, and freeze board. Vinyl single hung sash windows with a 1/over light configuration will be used. A fiberglass quarter light front door and a 2-panel solid rear door. Asphalt architectural shingles on a 5/12 pitch roof with a vinyl triangular gable vent. Hardy fascia and vented soffit. The front porch will have a finished concrete floor and steps. Columns will be constructed out of hardy material and will sit on brick plinths. And an acceptable exterior paint color palette was provided. So the proposed site plan indicates building setbacks that meet the setback dimensions required by the city's land development code and are consistent with the building setbacks of adjacent residences. While a parking area with 2 spaces is proposed at the rear of the lot with access to the alley, this parking area is not needed due to an existing gravel driveway, driveway apron, and curb cut at the eastern side of the front yard. The gravel driveway will need to be improved with concrete paving, however. And of course, this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines that are referenced here. And let me get past the existing home. Okay, so the future utilization of the property proposed by the applicant is as a new single-family house, which is appropriate and continues the historic use of the property. Staff finds the design of the house with its bungalow form, scale, massing, architectural details, and materials to be consistent with the design guidelines and compatible with the adjacent houses. The proposed placement of the house on the lot is consistent with the design guidelines and urban form standards in terms of orientation, building setbacks, foundation height, and porch depth. The off-street parking area at the rear of the property is not consistent with the intent of the design guidelines and should be limited to the existing driveway connecting to West Park Street, which should be improved with concrete paving. And while the building's proposed overall design is compatible with residences in the Dixieland neighborhood and with the design guidelines, this proposal would be the 3rd house of similar design built by the applicant in the Dixieland Historic District and lacks significant differentiation in its architectural design from the first 2 houses. And, sorry. So that was the end of my staff comment regarding the brand new house. The other 2 houses that the applicant has built on different streets, I think one was on Hancock and one was on Belmar, also had the same floor plan and general appearance. The changes that have been made to this particular house are with the columns themselves being placed on plinths instead of just straight columns. And I believe that was it. I think that was the only change that was made. but the applicant might be able to provide some additional information.
Emily, I know the board's had this discussion before about differentiation. Do the design guidelines have a specific provision on differentiation?
I believe there's maybe a sentence in the new construction design guidelines that does reference that new construction should be differentiated. And definitely in the secretary's standards, it calls for differentiation when new construction is built.
Well, there's differentiation between new construction and so it's not perceived as being old construction, but the duplication of building plans within the district, I don't think that's been addressed, has it?
I don't think
Yeah,
I mean, we've brought it up before, but in
Yeah.
writing, is there anything
But-
in the,
I mean, what's inside the house, we don't really pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, the
So-
same plan
It's the
can be used,
exterior
but you
and,
can
you know,
clad
Yeah.
it differently.
how repetitious?
And I think even just they have vented soffits, exposed rafter tails would change, to me, that's a huge difference.
That is.
Yep.
And that's a fairly simple change that doesn't change the
Structure.
structure of the
Yeah.
house. And
And the
Yeah.
two things that stood out to me were, we got the plinth that's in brick. Can we beef up the column above
Yeah, I
that to
agree.
be more similar to the previous house?
yeah, I was thinking.
And
way
this,
more
this
tapered.
doesn't have a fireplace from what I could see, and could it be added into the design? That's just to kind of reproduce the house that was there originally.
And even changing the 1/1, I know it's cheaper, and so that's why they always do 1/1 in new construction.
Right.
But even if you do a 2/1, that's,
Right.
you know, I imagine
Variation.
the two other builds have 1/1, so that's just eaves, porch columns, and window, just slight changes that make
A
a
difference.
huge difference,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, and I'm noticing on the right elevation, there's no kitchen window?
Well, that's
No, I'm just, it was just.
We can't put a window
that.
over the sink because we need
Yeah.
a cabinet.
Oh, right, I just noticed the minimalization of windows, there are 4 windows on the sides. So the right elevation, you know, the kitchen is right in the center. Is there a reason why you can't have a kitchen window?
There's no reason we can't add a window to that kitchen. I mean, the cabinets are on the,
on the sidewalk.
Interior wall.
yeah, the exterior wall, a window can be added.
And it's a cost, so, you know, less windows, less money.
Right.
That's the fact.
How do you really feel?
Okay, so what I'm hearing, just to summarize the suggested changes to differentiate this design, use exposed rafter tails, use tapered columns on the front porch, use a divided light upper sash for all the windows, add a window to the kitchen, and possibly add a chimney. Is that correct? Were there any ones I missed?
I'm less adamant about the fireplace, I was just
Yeah.
suggesting.
Are these
I
all,
think the others are all good suggestions.
are these all things that would be possible?
Yes,
keep
everything except
differentiation.
the chimney. We don't need chimney here in Florida, and it's super extra cost.
Cost.
Because we work for investor, and then they don't want to spend all that extra
Well,
money.
just doing
All the change I can make, except the chimney.
Just a column in the windows, or?
Yeah, I can do the exposed rafter. That's okay. Just like when I order my trusses, I explain we need that 2x6 exposed, and then we can make the design. Just avoid the chimney.
I could do with
I'm
the
with you.
chimney. if
Just
these
doing
other-
those slight modifications is sure gonna bring it a lot lower on budget than having to restore a falling down building.
Right.
And it'll make the grumpy people up here happy.
That's a small concession, I think.
Yeah.
And the windows are the 2 inches in, the inset, and all of our,
Standard conditions.
our standard stamp of approval items.
That's a hot topic for Dixieland.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So are we at motion
Yeah.
point? Okay. Make a motion to approve with the changes, adding kitchen window, adding rafter tail design, beefing up the, what did you call the column?
Tapered
Tapered columns,
And then adding the kitchen window.
adding kitchen window,
2/1.
and 2/1 windows, minimum 2/1 windows.
All denoted by staff, I think. she's
All,
got it.
yeah, all noted by staff, motion to approve based on those changes.
Can the staff approve it so that it doesn't have to come back to here?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're approving conceptually, correct? And then they're making,
No, you would be giving final approval with the conditions to be reviewed by staff prior
okay,
to.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second that. Second the motion.
Okay.
Thank you for
All right.
working with us.
Is there any discussion on the motion from the board? Hearing none. We'll go down with a roll call vote again then on this. John White for the motion. Lynn Dennis.
For the motion?
Landis Fleming.
4,
Jeremy Moses.
4.
Christopher Olson.
4.
Melinda Rinker.
4.
And I'm assuming because it was on appeal, Michelle has a vote then, right? And Michelle Celeste. Okay, for the motion.
Yay, Michelle.
Thank you. All right, the motion passes. So we thank you for coming back and giving us a second shot at this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. This concludes the Preservation Board meeting, and we'll move to Design Review Committee.
Very well, we will convene the Design Review Committee meeting November 18th, 2021. Start with roll call. Lynn Dennis, present. John White.
Present.
Dan Fowler's absent. Landis Fleming.
Here.
Jeremy Moses.
Here.
Chris Olson.
Present.
And Melinda Rinker.
Here.
Okay, hopefully all had time to review the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I would move approval of the minutes of the October meeting of the Design Review Committee.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion, excuse me, minutes are approved. There were 7 administratively approved certificates of review between 10:20 and 11:09. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to look at those. Are there any questions about any of those administratively approved? Melinda's scanning.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait a minute, which ones were they? Quick, read faster.
Clock is ticking.
I know, right? No, I had read those, so we're good.
Okay, so we're good.
We're good. I'm good.
Nice job, Ellen.
Thanks for keeping them short this time.
Exactly. Okay, we'll now move to the consideration of certificate of review applications. This will be the public hearing portion of the meeting. Jared, you've already sworn in everybody, so unless there's someone who has come in.
There is one.
There is one. If you did not, okay. If you would stand, and Jared, if you would give the oath.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Jared. Don't want to leave anybody out. Okay, we will then consider our first certificate for review, and that is HPB 21227. That's 221 East Main Street. Final approval requested for a projecting sign and wall sign proposed to be installed on the building at this address. The owner is JB Main Street LLC. The applicant, Ms. Kathleen Jack, Sign Corp. Inc., on behalf of Wauchula State Bank. Okay, are there any conflicts on the committee?
No.
Okay. Emily, may we have staff's recommendation?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Review and recommendation.
Okay, so the subject property is located at the southwest corner of South Kentucky Avenue and East Main Street and consists of 2 lots of record with a total area of .21 acres. On the property is a 2-story commercial building built circa 1912, which is a contributing structure in the Munn Park Historic District. Known as the Dean Bryant Building and formerly Nathan's Men's Shop, it is a 2-part commercial structure with Mediterranean Revival architectural elements expressed in its brick cladding, horizontal brick banding, and wood canopy covered in terracotta barrel tiles and supported by paired knee brackets. Flat metal awnings and a new window storefront system were installed on the building recently as part of the minor exterior alterations approved by the Design Review Committee in March 2021. The request is part of an overall signage package for Wauchula State Bank, which will occupy the ground floor of the Dean Bryant Building. In August, staff approved 2 signs that met the sign guidelines. One wall sign consisting of non-illuminated channel letters that will be lighted by an external lighting source, and this sign is 59.33 square feet in area, and that sign is placed on the East Main Street building facade, as you can see in the slide. And one projecting directional sign mounted to the front facade wall that is 1.85 square feet in area, and that will be, that hasn't been installed as of this picture, but it will simply say ATM, and it's directing to the ATM that's in the vestibule. And this is just a photo showing a current shot of the Kentucky Avenue facade of the building. So the current request seeks approval for the installation of 2 additional exterior signs. One internally illuminated projecting sign installed on the building's northeast corner facing the intersection of East Main Street and South Kentucky Avenue. The projecting sign is a 4-sided cuboid structure with copy reading Lakeland and is topped with a finial fashioned after the Wauchula State Bank's trademark. This sign is comprised of aluminum framing, flat aluminum panels, and push-through letters. The aluminum panels on the 4 sides of the assembly will have routed openings with dimensional acrylic letters pushed through the flat panels, which will be backlit with white LED lighting. Aluminum is an opaque material, and as such, the green flat panels will not emit light. The overall height of the sign is 11 feet and projects approximately 13 inches from the corner of the building. The sign's predominant message promotes Lakeland and comprises 2/3 of the sign area. In contrast, the finial has an area of 3.1 square feet. As the finial is the only portion of the sign that correlates to the bank, the applicant asks that the 4 panels of the sign area containing the word Lakeland not be counted as part of the aggregate sign area. This sign has a clearance dimension of 9.5 feet from the finished sidewalk to the bottom of the sign. And on the Kentucky Avenue facade, a secondary wall sign has been requested, which will be externally illuminated by a gooseneck light fixture. This wall sign is 22.75 square feet in overall area and is designed similarly to a historic plaque, oriented to pedestrian traffic, and is uniquely different than the other signs proposed for the bank. This sign will be manufactured out of cast aluminum or acrylic with a black satin finish. And this is just a rendering of the nighttime view for these signs. So the request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced here. And staff finds that the proposed projecting sign complies with the sign guidelines in terms of design, materials, projection dimension, and clearance dimension. However, the cumulative area of sign does exceed the maximum area of 8 square feet for projecting signs, mounted at a height of 15 feet or lower from the finished sidewalk to the bottom of the sign, per the sign guidelines, at a total of 8.9 square feet. Given that only a small part of the sign, which is the finial trademark, advertises the tenant business, and the overage of the sign area is not significant, staff finds the size of the sign meets the intent of the sign guidelines. Staff also finds that the requested wall sign meets the placement, scale, design, and size requirements of the sign guidelines. However, because the guidelines limit the number of wall signs to one sign per business and per building, the request for a second wall sign requires approval from the Design Review Committee. This sign is composed of individual letters that are dimensional in nature and are placed within a rectangular frame. Staff finds this secondary wall sign to be appropriate as the sign is not similar to the staff-approved wall sign on the East Main Street facade, is located on a secondary but street-facing facade, and is notably smaller than the staff-approved wall sign. Staff suggests removal of the gooseneck external light fixture due to the availability of street lighting at this location, and also to reduce visual clutter on the building wall, as well as to convey the appearance of this sign as a building plaque, which are typically not illuminated. So staff recommends final approval of the projecting sign as submitted and final approval of the wall sign with the condition that the gooseneck light fixture is removed. Thank you, Madam
Thanks,
Chair.
Emily. Ms. Jacks, do you have anything to add? All righty, are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, and are there any questions from the committee?
Yeah, the gooseneck light, when I look at the other photo that you have where it shows the nighttime view kind of the corner there, that one. Personally, eyesight, getting harder to see at night and dimmer lighting and whatnot. And if I was coming from Lemon down toward Maine, and I'm very specifically looking for a bank and an ATM and all of that, even though the street light is there, I don't know how much total illumination it has. I personally, I like the gooseneck lighting. I like the way it kind of, I like the illumination. I like the differentiation of a little bit on that side, which is a very plain side, but that's, my thought is I like the light, but what is everybody else's thought here, and why is that particularly a normal no?
Just for the reasons given that typically building plaques aren't illuminated, and it would reduce the visual clutter on that facade.
Well, and it's a bank, so it's closed at dark anyway, so you really don't.
This is true.
And it's definitely not that dark. when
And I
close.
think that's
No,
kind of
okay.
a misrepresentation of the amount of light that's
Sure,
available
exactly.
downtown.
Yeah,
I
mean, it's,
would agree
it's
with
just
staff.
emphasizing right where it was. Yeah, I agree.
Let it stand as appearing as a plaque and not
Okay.
A lit sign,
illuminating
right.
it, I
Well,
think.
and the Lakeland sign would be illuminated, and you
Yeah,
see the
exactly.
Wachula little logo
Symbol.
thingy coming down that side anyways.
Sure, right.
Okay. Just a,
Thought process. Sure.
And
Thought
it's
process
kind of
that you-
low. It's like 7.3 is what I just calculated. And like if you're carrying something down the road that's tall, like you'd whack it.
Well, there you go.
And people are like, I don't know, 6'4".
It's
and-
a tall
okay.
person or,
in terms of function.
yeah, okay.
It's a good elevation, and I think, based on your description of the sign and what I read, even if the aluminum's finished green, it's not gonna be like, it kinda looks like the entire sign is glowing, but it's just the letters and the light that's leaking from the letters that's showing you the aluminum.
If you're driving down the street, that would be helpful, to know where you are.
and the Lakeland sign is illuminated, corrate?
Yes.
From behind?
Just
Okay.
the letters.
Just the lettering, but from behind, okay.
At night, it'll probably appear black.
Rather than
If
green,
it was
yeah.
pitch black on the street, but it.
But that's Munn Park, right?
Yeah, it's right
It's
there.
all
to the
lit
right.
up anyways, yeah.
I move for final approval of the projecting sign and final approval of the wall sign as submitted.
With stuff.
Okay, that's with the gooseneck light.
Right.
Okay,
Because it was submitted with it.
okay, is there a second? Hearing no second,
Yeah. I'm not committed on the gooseneck.
okay,
light
then,
either.
then that,
But Unless
Motion
someone
fails.
wants to sell me on
Lack
it.
of second.
huh?
Did the motion fail for lack of?
Yes,
Yeah.
for lack of second, sorry. Do I hear another motion?
Motion to approve per staff approval, so without the gooseneck light.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion other than the fact that Landis is not happy?
With the gooseneck.
Yes,
I'm sorry I didn't ask this earlier. If the concern about the gooseneck light
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're on TV, and all our viewers at home will be very disappointed to hear what you're saying. So if you're going to speak, please come down and join us. And there's a microphone, or you can stand at the podium, whichever you prefer. But that way we can hear you on the microphone. Thank you so much.
And repeat your name, please.
I'm Kathleen Jacks. I'm with Signcore, and I represent Wauchula State Bank. And I apologize for not throwing this out there earlier, but if the concern about the gooseneck fixture is visual clutter, if we find, once that's installed, that the illumination from the street lighting is really not adequate enough so that you can read that sign in the evening, would you all consider a different type of fixture, maybe something where the fixture itself is just minimal, like a bar or something that's maybe flush to the building so that it provides light without really making a statement in terms of architecture?
My suggestion, based on hearing that, is just to delegate that approval to staff. If they determine, that they need the additional light at a later time, they can just go to Emily and she can approve the appropriate fixture. That way they don't have to come back, all the way back to the board just to approve a single light
yeah, are
fixture.
you good with that, Emily?
Good.
Okay.
So do we need
We
to
don't
Amend
need
the
to do
motion.
anything?
amend the motion?
No,
Is it-
do we?
Would the code already allow you to approve a simple light fixture
Yes.
like that?
Yes.
Okay, so then.
So we can
you
leave the
wouldn't need to
motion as
modify
is?
anything.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave the motion as is.
okay. Is there any further, thank you, Ms. Jacks.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor of the motion? Let's take roll call. Lynn Dennis for the motion, John White,
For the motion?
Dan Fowler isn't here, Landis Fleming,
For.
Jeremy Moses,
For.
Chris Olson,
For.
and Melinda Rinker.
Four.
And the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Jacks.
Thank you.
Very well. We will move on to our next certificate for review, and that is HPB 21-228, 602 West Hancock Street. Final approval requested for the enclosure of one window opening on the east elevation of the subject property. The owner applicant, Mr. Greg Wilhelm, Meg Investments of Polk LLC. Are there any conflicts among the committee members? Hearing none, Renee, would you give the staff report recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, the subject property is located at the southwest corner of West Hancock Street and South Ohio Avenue. And on the lot is a single-family house in the frame vernacular architectural style that was built circa 1920 and is a contributing building in the Dixieland Historic District. In April 2021, the applicant submitted a building permit application for the renovation of the subject house. Included in the scope of work for the renovation was the replacement of 14 existing windows, and the existing windows were double-hung sash wood windows with a 1/1 light configuration. The replacement windows consisted of single-hung sash vinyl windows with a 1/1 light configuration. The replacement windows were approved by staff with the standard conditions for replacement windows according to the design guidelines, including matching opening size and installing the windows with a recess into the wall plane. After the work was completed and upon the historical final inspection, staff noticed that the small window opening in the middle of the east elevation wall had been removed. After notifying the applicant that the window removal was beyond the scope of work and required design review committee approval, the applicant now requests approval for the window opening removal. The applicant has stated that the removed window was located in the tub and shower area of the bathroom, and as the applicant has found it difficult to keep a window in this area from leaking water into the exterior wood frame wall, they decided to simply remove the window and were unaware that this required design review approval. The exterior wall has been clad with drop-lap siding matching the existing siding. So this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines that are referenced here. And while the removal of an original window opening is not recommended by the design guidelines, staff finds that the request will not adversely affect the overall architectural character of the subject house, as the window opening was a smaller size than the majority of the existing windows and located on a secondary facade of the house. Additionally, the removal does not result in an unbalanced fenestration pattern on this wall. Finally, staff approved the enclosure of a non-historic window opening on the rear addition of this house as part of the initial staff approval, which is Certificate of Review, HPB 21-102. So as a result, staff does recommend approval of the request as submitted.
Very good. Mr. Wilhelm, do you have anything to add?
I don't really, other than to thank this committee and this process for offering it to people like me who make mistakes when they do things. So,
I'm sure we're all guilty.
I especially want to thank Emily. I don't know if you realize what a gem she is to the city. She always answers her phone. Well, she always returns her calls. And I have lots of questions when we work on these old houses in the historic areas, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. So, thank you, Emily.
Very well. Are there any input from the as they fall
Any
silent?
ghosts?
Okay. Committee members, any questions regarding this?
Yeah, Emily, can you remind me what happened to the window on the back addition?
Yeah, so I'll go back. If you see in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that window on the very left side. That whole part of the house is an addition. And so since it wasn't original to the house, I felt comfortable in granting approval to remove that window. It was also it was shown as being enclosed on the original plans that were submitted with the building permit. So I administratively approved that removal.
Okay, and I thought I heard you say something about adding a window back there?
No.
Or was that the same window we're talking about being removed?
No, he's
no
talking
windows
the
were
middle
added.
one between the two sets of two windows.
Yeah, no, I get that. I thought right towards the end you had mentioned something about a window in the rear. So, okay.
Okay, any other questions from committee members?
I noticed you said it's on obviously a side wall, but it's also on a street facing wall. Like, is it in the tub area? Is it off to the side of the tub? What are we looking at it there?
It was right in the middle of the tub,
Yeah.
The touch.
right in the middle of the tile, if you look at the floor plan
Okay.
there.
That's what I have. And yes, water's.
Mess.
Yeah, and like I said, I love old houses, and we actually didn't put much thought into it. It was kind of brought up, hey, there's just no way when you tile to a wood structure, no amount of caulk, it's going to leak into the wall. And so we just deleted it. Didn't know I needed to
Here
appear
you are.
before Emily and the board.
Yeah, I found I have a window outside of the tile in one of my bathrooms that I didn't know existed until I went, oh, where does that go? So, yeah.
I do have a question, related to the picture, not the window. But, what is so it gets hard to, I assume that it's a new roof. On terms of roof venting, is there like requirements in terms of gable and off ridge? I don't know the correct term for roofing versus like the little,
Turbine.
yes, that thing.
Our design guidelines don't
Don't
go
have-
into that
okay.
detail for venting.
Okay.
Personally, I wouldn't have done that, but the roof was actually there when we bought the house.
Oh, okay.
No, it was,
It's hard to see because of the tree, the way the picture's taken, but I was just curious.
You're talking about the ridge venting versus the window?
The turbine
he's
thing,
talking about
yeah.
the whirly-bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said that's existing, so
Yeah. Okay.
I was just curious how that there's no requirements, we can do it at room.
We'll look into
No
that.
comments.
Within reason.
We can add that if the board so chooses.
An off-ridge vent or a ridge cap vent would have looked much better.
Yeah, I just think they're kind of like garage worthy.
I'm gonna guess that the previous owner, that was existing.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because like I said, we didn't do that, and they wanted to save $75 and left it.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. I was just curious. The roof looks clean, so.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions of Mr. Wilhelm? No, we'll close the public portion of this, which I should have done before our discussion, but if there are no other questions, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
I make a lot of them, so I chose to say
Okay, well,
silent.
it's okay, we'll give it time. Okay, any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, John White,
For the motion?
Dan Fowler not here, Landis Fleming,
4.
Jeremy Moses,
4.
Chris Olson,
4.
and Melinda Rinker.
4.
And you are approved.
Thank you.
And thank you for your
Approved
input
to do nothing.
earlier. That's very
Yeah, that,
helpful.
I sat there and listened to that, and like I said, I had looked at that house. We look at pretty much everything that comes up for sale. That house was really bad.
And our dilemma was the photos that we
Right,
were
the
given
six-
us
the six
to
photos, right, aren't
review
enough.
were all of that
Addition?
addition. We had no sense of what the main structure looked like, so authorizing a demolition based on that just wasn't adequate information.
We bought some really bad houses, and I walked out of that one. I said, there's no way. No way.
While you could get out of it.
Yeah, and I respect that, to be able to see this is a bigger problem than I can handle in terms of cost. Like, you're in the business of flipping houses, so nobody buys old houses for a quick buck. Like, that's not what this is about, so.
And anyone who's done it before knows that when you're dealing with historic houses, which we've probably done at least 10 in the Morton and Dixieland, number one, they're money pits, and number two, you have a whole lot more regulations to follow.
Yeah. Yep. And so you have to know that going into it.
And I thought it was interesting that you asked them if they had seen the house, because there's so many investors now that do buy stuff and never see it.
Yep. And old houses are easy, like, obviously there's problems, but that's why I like old houses, because they all have a crawl space. Like, a lot of your problems can be seen by just laying on the ground.
I've crawled under every house that we've had that had a crawl space and up in the attic of every house that we were potentially buying, because that's when you see what's going on with it, you know?
And they're easy to replumb.
Yes.
That's true. Very well. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? If not, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I'll move approval of adjournment.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
for the
second that approval of the adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, what is it?